Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Time Out for Anesthesia. We are actually taking a different course today, and I'm really excited about it. One of the things that Graphium Health is excited to talk about and tries to keep top of mind all the time is company culture. We've had lots of meetings developing, and I think it's rare that companies actually get their leadership together to prioritize company culture and talk about it. But along those lines, today we have a special guest that I've actually known for a while, but only recently did I know that he published a bestseller on Amazon called Empowering Kindness. And you can see there the author is Nathan Caldwell. And Empowering Kindness, I've already read through it. It is fantastic. We're going to talk about it today. But welcome to the show, Nathan. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you so much for having me here. Appreciate it very much. It's always nice to find a fan. I know you aren't really a fan. You're a friend, and I
I
appreciate that so
absolutely
much.
am a fan. On the contrary.
No, but it's great to be invited in and to share this message with others because I think it's a very important one. And it's not necessarily my message. This truth has been around forever. And I just enjoy the ability to share it with others and to help people kind of focus on it and see the importance. Because sometimes we take it for granted and think that it's just going to be there, but it's not. It takes intentionality, and it takes people crafting it into their character.
You're so right. And in reading through the book, I just finished it yesterday. We talked a little bit before the show, and you were like, you're a fast reader, but it's a fast read. You can't put it down. The stories that you have and the ideas that you get throughout just they kind of grab you from the very outset. And it's something, you're right, it's something that I think everybody can really relate to. And it's not so empowering kindness, the idea of inserting kindness and keeping it at the top of your priority list throughout everything you do as a company, and really everything you do in your personal life as well. It's so important. And I think when probably people think about the concept and things like that, they think it's something extremely simple. Well, and like you said, it's an idea that's been around and things like that. But the truth of the matter is, it's actually extremely complicated to keep prioritized correctly, because there's so many competing priorities. And so often we let those come in and I think take over. And I think your book, what it's done for me, it's allowed me to kind of rethink strategies about how to keep that, how to allow kindness to keep its place and then have its appropriate effect downstream.
Yeah, well, it's always helpful, I think, to also level set on what we mean by kindness, because a lot of people, have different definitions of what it is. And I think that a strong definition that's been floating around is that kindness is weakness, and it's not. It's strength, and it is. It's much like the super strong person who chooses, though, to be vulnerable and show kindness. There's more strength in that than the super strong person. Like, I grew up reading comic books and stuff, and like the strongest moment I found in the character of Robin. Remember, you had Batman and Robin grew up and became Nightwing, and he went off to his own city, and he was helping because he wanted his own identity. And then there was an earthquake in Gotham City, and everybody came back. All the heroes came back to help out. And thanks for going with me on this analogy. But the most powerful moment, the strength that Robin showed in this, was he wanted to be himself. He wanted the credit. He wanted to be his own hero. And in the moment when he was pulling people out of the rubble in the earthquake, there was a kid he was pulling out that said, "Oh, Batman." And instead of like letting it hurt his ego, he just said, "Yeah, I'm here." Like he took himself out of the picture and just saw the moment to help others took more strength. when you have humility. Like, you know,
Yeah,
demonstrating your strength in moments of power isn't strength. It's when you humble yourself and help others that I
that's
feel like
awesome. And
true strength is shown.
a real world example that you brought up in your book that I think is really the parallel story is the story of Wayne Gretzky that you
Oh
shared.
yeah.
Not to give away too much of the story, but do you mind sharing a little
No,
bit about
that's
that?
great. Yeah, absolutely. So Wayne Gretzky, he's known as one of the greatest hockey players of all time. And if you're familiar with hockey, you know that players accumulate points from scoring a goal or making an assist. And so Gretzky, though, is the all-time leading points leader. He has something like almost 2,000 points. It's like 1,800, 1,900 something points based off of goals and assists. Well, if you take away all of his 894 goals, I think it is, he still has enough points from assists alone to still be number one in points. Like the next leader, the second place guy is Jaromir Jagr, and he still trails behind Gretzky with his combined goals and assists compared to Gretzky's just assists alone. Now,
Wow.
here's what makes this so powerful and so significant, that Gretzky talks about his hockey stick. And in an interview, he shared that the blade on his stick has almost no curve. And the reason why is because he wants to pass as well on the forehand as he does on the backhand, because he realizes that if he can set up his teammates for success, they have a greater chance of winning as a team. Now that is completely different than the mindset of most superstars in any sport, which is how can I score the most? How can I be put on a pedestal more? And for the greatest, one of the greatest players in hockey history to say, I want to be an amazing passer, I want to set my teammates up for success, that is such a powerful, powerful message, because it doesn't say, oh, I have to be weak, I can't score any goals. He's one of the all-time leading goal scorers as well, but he is extremely focused on also helping
That's
his
incredible.
teammates. And so that's a powerful message for us too. Like, yes, be competitive, go out there, get paid well for your job, be successful, do an incredible job making an effort, but also be mindful of your teammates. Set
That's
them
fantastic.
Up for success. Be a good teammate.
That's fantastic. I actually was on the phone with another executive just a couple weeks ago. Her name is Shelly Vanpoole. And she was, one of the things that's going on is her organization is losing a key player because he's found a totally different career path somewhere else. But it's a dream come true for him. He's extremely excited and things like that. And I think a tendency for any organization is to see that movement and get disappointed, get upset, try and draw that person back, or even get, angry with them for turning their back on you or whatever. But her words, and I don't remember, I can't quote her exactly, but the idea that she put across was, this for me is a success, because what we want to do at our company is we want to find people opportunities. And if that opportunity is with us, awesome. If they've found an opportunity to be successful and to be happy somewhere else because of their work here, that's success for us. And for that reason, I think she's one of the most successful people in her area, is because of that mindset, showing that this idea of kindness is actually a strength, and what she has are powerful people who are sought after in other places, in other industries even. And I think that's hugely commendable. Another thing I want to bring up, not to veer too far away from your book itself, but recently you took these ideas in front of a whole bunch of employees at Dollywood.
Yeah.
Tell me about that experience.
Amazing family-friendly theme park.
Right.
It's wonderful there.
Right. And Dolly
so,
Parton's somebody that you talk a lot about in your book. Tell me a little bit more about her.
Yeah, so Dolly she's always had these like Dolly-isms. like things that she says, these catchphrases, almost little mantras that can really stick with you. And a lot of times she talks about like having backwoods wisdom with a boardroom style. Like she has these great little snippets that are present in her character always. And then also she knows how to run business. And so it's like one of the quotes that my little 5-year-old daughter has memorized is, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. And that's a Dollyism, right? She says that. And then also, like, I quote lines from Working 9 to 5, the song, where it talks about, they'll let you dream just to watch them shatter. You're just another step on the boss man's ladder. Where like she's describing this poisonous work environment where she wants to grow, she wants to have opportunity, but they won't let you. They'll step over you. And I talk about it in my book. I talk about it anytime I present, that there's an actual study that shows that type of environment is more than 2 times, it causes heart disease more than 2 times as likely.
Wow.
And so if you're in an environment, and they describe it in the study as low job control, where you face problems every single day that you would want to contribute to the solution for. You know, if you are a customer service agent and you keep getting customer complaints about this one thing that's not quite working, and you go to your supervisor, your manager, your boss, and you say, hey, I keep hearing from customers, this is a problem, can we fix it? If the manager, if the boss is like, no, you're like, but I have this idea, it wouldn't cost much money, it would just, no, 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 no. If the answer is always no to you as somebody who encounters problems, that you're not allowed to contribute at all to the solution, either solving it yourself or telling people who can make the decision or who have the authority to put some dollars behind it or some solutions behind it. If they keep saying no, 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 that's low job control, because you're stuck in this spot where you have low control over what happens to you, how you provide service, how you do your job. Additionally, low job control is also defined as if you have no room for growth. Now, you described a situation where somebody had room for growth, but it was with another company. Now, if that boss that they left is like poisonous and tells people like, we hate them, they're dead to us, they betrayed us, they left us, like what message does that send to the team there? Right. They're just fearful of like that person's emotional reaction to them. So having no room for growth, and that doesn't mean that, okay, I started today, I'm a new employee, and I'm like, sit down, how do I get to the C-suite? Like, how do I become the leader of the company? Like, that might not happen. However, you should be in a situation like you described with this person who grew in that department, added responsibility, opportunity for learning, especially from leaders who go shoulder to shoulder with you and show you the way, invite you along to solve problems with them, put you in charge of solving problems. So back to the study, low job control. If you're in that situation where you can't contribute to solutions or see them get solved, and if you have no room for growth, you are more than 2 times likely to develop heart disease. And heart disease is the #1 killer in America.
Right. Well, even with research aside, I think that makes common sense to everybody if they'll just kind of step back and think about it. We've all been part of a situation where we feel like our voice isn't being heard, right? Or we feel like, I feel like I could contribute to this, or I can make it better in some way, or something like that. And we're just not allowed to be a part. And that gives you anxiety, it makes you frustrated, and you can feel not just the emotional, but the physiological effects of that, right?
Oh yeah, so absolutely.
I think what you're saying is super valuable. Coming back to Dolly Parton, we talked a little bit about this before, but I was right in the middle of your book, and a news app that I use popped up a news article on my screen, and I put the book down and I looked, and it was about Dolly Parton. And just a couple of days ago, Dolly Parton had been part of the lineup, part of the group of nominees to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I didn't realize it, but part of the way that that works is by vote. So the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has people just get on and submit a vote for whoever it is. It's somewhat of a popularity contest. And you've got names at the top of it right now, like Pat Benatar and Duran Duran and Devo.
Yeah, and it looks like Judas Priest, Rage Against the Machine, a bunch of others, Carly Simon, Diane Warwick. So yeah, there's a that's a huge, amazing class of people. Right.
And just, I mean, great names, very rock and roll-ish names. And on that list as well was Dolly Parton. And Dolly Parton was in 3rd or 4th place. And just, I think it was yesterday. Today is March 17th, 2022. So when we're recording, so it would have been, I think, March 16th, maybe March 15th, that Dolly Parton tweeted out, "Thank you so much for the honor, but she had decided to bow out." And the reason she was doing that was, in her own words, or similar to her own words anyway, was, "I don't think that I've earned this honor." And she said she'd love to be considered in the future, but she didn't want her vote to split the votes between people who she felt deserved the honor. Now, deserving the honor or not, I think there's probably who would disagree with her that she has earned the honor. But at the same time, what kind of humility does that take, right? And she just, that was one of the first times with your book, it was one of the first times I really had experience looking into Dolly Parton as a personality. And just by coincidence, that news article popped up and I was like, what an amazing character.
Yeah, and I mean, just a general comment about Dolly Parton too. Like a lot of people, they know I like Dolly Parton. They know I'm a fan. I have a couple Dolly Parton t-shirts, and I go to, Dollywood. My wife and I have seen her in concert. And so, yeah, I'm a fan. But really what amazes me about her is her character and what she has done throughout her career. And please, like, if you want to dig into a little bit more of like Dolly Parton positivity, go back to like early Barbara Walters interviews with her, where Barbara Walters says to her face, "Would I," and she says it in such a like condescending way, "would my Barbara people Walters basically call your people hillbillies? Would we call you hicks, basically?" And Dolly's composure, you can see her like think, that wasn't nice, but the way she responds is beautiful. She said, "I could see how some people from your point of view would say that about us, but we're very proud people. We're very smart people. We don't have the college degrees that many of your people would have, but we have wisdom and we take care of one another." And the way that she has handled herself, especially too, like if you go through, like, even I remember being a kid and like Dolly was always on like the National Enquirer or the all those like tabloid magazines, and like just picking her apart for like her weight and all that sort of stuff. Never once has she ever like lashed out at anybody. She just says things like, they're doing their job and, they need to sell newspapers and that's what you can expect. And, and just like politely like continues along. But then on the backside too, she is incredibly shrewd and wise. So she's very kind. She's very sweet. She's doing this humble thing of backing out. But like, maybe this story or not. back when her big hit, I Will Always Love You, she wrote that, she recorded it, it came out, it had a lot of life to it. Elvis Presley approached her and said, I want to record that song. And Elvis famously sang it in some of his concerts. But he went to her and said, look, I want to record this, but whenever I record a song, I get the rights to it. And she said, thank you, but no thank you. I'm not giving up my rights. Like, she was so business minded and wise that she held on to it. And now, like, I heard her sing it live on a live recording. My wife got me a CD of it. And at the beginning, she's like, the song kind of starts, the music starts, and she's like, oh, you guys, talking to the audience, you guys know what song this is. She's like, yeah, it's a really great song. I've always loved this song. She's like, I think I'll write it and then I'll give it to Whitney. Meaning, like, she wrote it, she recorded it, it had its own life under her. But then the deal worked with Whitney Houston, and she even talks about the house that Whitney bought her, because when Whitney Houston re-recorded it for the movie The Bodyguard, it like took on its whole life of its own too. So going back to Dolly in general, like, there are so many examples of her just being a truly positive and kind person in all of her dealings, no matter how disrespectfully she was treated by the media or the public or whoever. She always maintained this element of positivity. And I cannot think of any other celebrity who leaves that impact behind. You know, like, to just be that focused on positivity, and every encounter that she has, in every interview, in everything she produces, it's just helpful, and it's a point of positive light.
I think you've done a great job in your book bringing up Dolly Parton is a primary example that gets carried over through several parts of your book, but you also bring up other people that all I think would be considered kind of top tier people, right? You've got examples from Dolly Parton, you have quotes from Ronald Reagan, we already talked about Wayne Gretzky, and then we talk about top level other things. We talk about Disney World, Dollywood's in there a little bit, other theme parks, things like that. But I also see you in your book. I think the reason you're calling out those top level examples is because in your book, your message really is from the top level down. It's not a book that says, hey, quote, lower level employees, you need to be kind, and then maybe that will leak up, right? Your book really addresses executive level people and what kindness needs to mean to them, and then how to perpetuate kindness throughout their own organizations. You even kind of changed the title of Chief Executive Officer to Chief Empowerment Officer, which I really liked.
Yeah, and I think one of the strongest, like, and simplest examples of this is like when you have companies who are like, oh, we're a family here, but then do not treat their employees at all like family. You know, if you're a family, then the executive is the parent, basically. And so these are all your kids, really. And so you're looking to, I mean, I can't think of firing. I have 4 kids. I'm not going to fire any of them. I'm going to, like, patiently teach them, help them grow, give them added responsibility as they grow so that they can bear more weight on their shoulders, and I'm beside them to help them along. I can't tell you of how many examples of companies who are like, we're family here, but then provide zero focus for their employees to grow, and turn around and say, you're not performing, you're gone.
Right.
Like, at what point does the family take some responsibility and say, oh, wait a second, we're having to let go a lot of people who are not doing a great job, maybe we haven't done a great job either communicating how they get to the great job. You know, what does a good job look like versus what does an excellent job look like? Give them a rubric, let them know where they stand, right? Or if they aren't performing, how do you bring them up? How do you coach them through that? And that entirely relies on those who are currently in leadership. Now, you did say, though, right, the idea of it is top down, but it's also a message in the book. There's a message to say we are all in positions of leadership because we all have a circle of influence.
Absolutely
we can
right.
all be kind and lead by example and be there for others to help them grow.
And not simply in the, hey, I'm going to buy the Starbucks for the guy behind me way was one of the examples that you give. That's kind. But
yeah, and that's called a random act of kindness.
Sure.
But the point is, those are great, those are fun, but at a certain point, they break down, right? How long can you pay for the person behind you before somebody stops paying or the day is over, right? Because random acts of kindness has a day once a year, right? And the idea is that's nice, but you have the opportunity to make a drastic impact on the lives of others if you choose to incorporate it into your character and always be looking to say, okay, how can I help others? And so, like, from individual to individual, that's a little bit of a different context. That is, how can I do something for someone else without expecting anything in return?
Right.
On a team, it's different. How do we work together to accomplish the goal and share the success? Share the workload, share the success. That's the team mentality of it. But then from a leader's perspective, it's how can I help my team, like remove barriers, remove blocks, as well as build them up to accomplish more and share the credit. And so there's like nuance in the definition of kindness and what it truly means. But in every instance of those examples I'm giving you in those contexts, it's all about doing something that is sometimes hard, right? Like from an individual to an individual, looking at each other and saying, okay, what can I do for you and not expect anything in return? Sometimes that means, like, you know, financial help. Sometimes that means a ton of time. Sometimes that means coaching, you know, walking alongside people. On a team, it can be somebody is experiencing some difficulty at home. They're dealing with a family illness, and so they can't carry as much of their workload as they normally can. And so the team hops in and says, all right, how can I help? Like, the worst thing somebody can say on a team is, not my job. Like, if you think of an actual sports team, there are moments in sports, and maybe I don't remember if I share this story in the book or not, but there was a moment.
It can be in the sequel.
Yeah, all right. Or in my speeches or whatever. There was a game where like everything was on the line for this game. And Scottie Pippen, he was supposed to go in on the next shift. And he sat down on the bench and said, if I don't take the shot, I'm not doing it. I'm not going in. How is that being a part of a team? Like, you would never expect, you wouldn't call it a good team if players are just like, nah, I'm out. I'll just hang out back over here.
No joke.
Yet, for some reason, people think that's acceptable in the work environment. To be a team player who's like, nope, I'm out. I'm not helping. And so it's on the leaders, especially because they're the ones who, you know, set the tone as well and can pull people aside and say, look, this is unacceptable. We want teams where people can trust one another. We want teams where people are going to help out with one another. Now, that's also, there's a difficult conversation if somebody is repeatedly just not contributing.
Right.
Oh, the rest of the team got this. I'll just take it easy. That's a whole other conversation. But this idea of working together towards a goal, sharing the success, it's vitally important.
I think you're right. Completely vitally important. And I think the concepts that you put in here make the difference between somebody falling in love with your product versus somebody falling in love with your company. And when somebody can fall in love with your company, that's what makes for long-term relationships, long-term contracts. It makes for recommendations outside of your company, and then repeat the process. And more people falling in love with your company, telling your story for you, increasing and augmenting your brand, all of that. I don't think you can really put a value on, but we've got to wind it down for now. Everybody, I want to show you this once again. On Amazon right now, you can go and buy Empowering Kindness. It'll be on your doorstep tomorrow, probably. Nathan, thank you so much for being here. I've really enjoyed your time. I especially enjoyed your book, and I'm already recommending it to pretty much everyone I know. So thank you so much. And I can't wait to have you on again sometime.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate being here. Thank you for the conversation and for sharing this message with your audience. Really means a lot. Appreciate it.
Well, appreciate your time, and we will talk to you next time. Everybody have a great day, and we will talk to you next time on Time Out for Anesthesia.